is given to us. Greetings and blessings to each one who have joined our Zoom meeting this morning, a time with God for prayer, for fellowship in the Word, and to hear God's inspired writings so that our life may be changed, transformed, and enabled for God's service. And we are so grateful that God has foreseen the world in which we are living, probably not much different from the times when the servants of God have written their messages. But today, we will learn from the book of Proverbs, continue to gain deep spiritual admonitions and insights of our daily life. Our focus is today upon verse 8 of chapter 29. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 8. Scoffers set a city aflame, but wise men turn away wrath. As we've been observing these proverbs, the wise man tries to show the stark contrast between what the world is and what God's intention for is, how he wants his people to be, and how the way of the world is. Looking at these scenes every day, certainly these will remain in our mind. Here is a city which is set aflame, a burning city. We may not even need to think how it happened before we should act to douse the flame, to stop that flame from proceeding and inflaming everything. But to see such situations caused in this world happen by accident or incident. Accidents sometimes happen without our control, but maybe these are incidences that people who are not in their right mind, people whose minds are not guided and governed by God's principles, behave. And such people, the wise man calls scoffers. Scoffers probably belong to a family of fools, as somebody said, but they are the worst of the offenders. Because these people feel so comfortable and so settled in their way of thinking that they behave in a cynical manner, in an offensive manner, rejecting God's wisdom. They reject God and his wisdom. And by their behavior, they do not intend, or they are not able to comprehend what will be the outcome. But knowing such, these people act foolishly. They are mocking, they are ridiculing, they are dishonoring, and they make situations, dangerous situations, even worse. These people do not give much time to thinking. They are so arrogant that they think they know much, and thus they are able to scoff at people, ridicule people. They, with their limited knowledge, they may even try to cause abuse upon those who are highly educated. We have certainly scoffers who take advantage of those people who are mild, those people who are tolerant, those people who tend to take things lightly. They take advantage. They mock these kind, simple, humble people who are calm and peaceful, trying to create some kind of social or political or even spiritual turmoil. Such kind of behavior of people, some of them we may think are even talented, they may be intelligent, but always used in the wrong way. These scornful people are dangerous because they are rebellious and arrogant. They want to defy standards, rules, regulations. They disregard God's commandments. They're arrogant. They feel that they are even above the law, and they themselves become a law to themselves. And for those who honor divine wisdom, they begin to treat them with contempt. So you see these people sometimes in our midst, these people who, with their words, their behavior, their attitude that they want to spread in the social media or in public places, they like to create conflict. These are scoffers that we are called upon to be watchful of, because their foolishness, their ignorance, not really, but their intended actions may be accomplished through their misactions. So much so, here the wise man says, scoffers can set a city aflame. I'm reminded of the great Roman emperor called Nero, who was ruling the world in the first century. And of course, the Romans were known to be cruel people, some of them even eccentric, but just because they are rulers of the kingly family, not only in the Roman Empire, but in other parts of the world, they had to be tolerated because of their kingly position. But he, in a way, was such an eccentric person. He had done so many foolish things, but one of them was unable to bear the growth of Christianity and its spread and its influence. He thought that he could bring reproach upon them, cause danger for them, and he himself set fire to the city of Rome and blamed the Christians for this act. I remember seeing in the city of Rome certain portions which are said to be from the time when Emperor Nero set the city on flame and blamed the Christians. And therefore, the Christians became a target for people who suffered because of this fire. And thus, he scoffed at their religion. He would not accept Jesus Christ, whom they worshipped. He did not accept his power, but by that persecution that came in Rome, Christians spread from Rome. Those early Jewish Christians, they went to various parts of the world, and Christianity sprang in many parts of the Roman Empire just because of this foolish act of this Emperor Nero. By setting a city aflame, he thought his infectious actions will become a snare of its ruin, blaming somebody to be the cause and ready to take and inflict punishment upon them. But even before he could recover, Christians spread and went to various parts of the world. Thus, Christianity was able to reach many more places. As we see in Christian history, when persecution was severe, and even Roman emperors after him, who persecuted Christians, put them in prisons, and even threw Christians to wild animals. And as the people watched, these animals would kill Christians in that battle between animals and humans. And many more such criminal acts of crucifying and severe, intense persecutions. And it is during such times of persecution that Christianity actually spread the fastest. A scornful person may think he is trying to bring to an end God's people, but we see God's work progressing all the more. The tendency for Christians or anybody is when things are going smooth, things are going fine, when things are at ease, we become complacent. We don't take life as seriously when we are in trouble. One major problem for this very dismal spread of Christianity, very slow progress of Christianity in the modern and postmodern world, is because the world has become a very comfortable place. And even for Christians who enjoy these comforts and do very little, perhaps the bare minimum, to preach the gospel and suffering for Christ, is hardly even heard. But we see this in the last days now, persecution and sufferings, and such would come upon God's people more intensely in these last days. If you as a Christian are not suffering, somebody said, you are not living a truly Christian life. Certainly Christian life will call forth attention of people and would make enemies of the world. If we are friendly with the world, if we are good with the world, it means that we have compromised. But as Christians who stand for the truth and the word, it is certainly the world which is against them. And so we as Christians are called upon to come out of this complacency and to be more proactive. For we are called to be those who will, as wise men, in a society, not because of our great abilities, but because of our God-given wisdom. Wisdom which is able to make us obedient to God, to follow God's instructions without question, to accept God's will and live in their lives. For a wise person is one who acknowledges God and who knows that wisdom comes from God. And in following this wisdom, you can even turn away the wrath of God, the punishment that is to come upon you. The role of wise person as an agent who can calm an angry situation. A wise person who can act as a mediator, who can pacify, who can bring peace among the people, instead of a scoffer who may add fuel to the fire and intensify an argument. A wise person will try to avoid senseless arguments, and he will promote peace. They act as a calming agent, and with discretion when they confront foolishness. Thus, they prevent the spread of rage, of wrath that is to come. When God told Abraham, as he visited him with the angels, telling about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham wondered if Lot, his nephew, was not able to convert or lead people of Sodom and Gomorrah to accept the God whom he worshipped. And he bargained with God. If there was even one, if there was a group of good people in the city, can the city be spared from destruction? And God was willing. People who are wise, people who are God-fearing, people who follow God's instructions can avert the wrath of God by their presence. An active person who is wise, who is obeying God, will be able to spread his influence to many people who can turn their minds to God. But here was Lot, and Abraham had to bargain from 50 to 40, right down till 10. Even with such a group, God was willing to see a possibility of sparing a wicked city from destruction, because those people could work for the salvation of those who were to perish. But unfortunately, we know not even the family of Lot were ready to accept God's instructions and to take that free gift of life, that rescue from Sodom and Gomorrah's fire. They could not accept. So finally, only 3 escaped with their lives. The power of a wise person certainly is tremendous. God would love to see his people who can make a difference in this world. Not an arrogant person, not a scornful person, not one who will not accept divine wisdom, for they shall become the cause for the downfall of a city. But a wise person who acknowledges God, who knows God, who obeys God, and because of him, a whole city could be saved. A wise person who reflects God's character and his righteousness. By their goodness, they are able to turn away God's wrath. That is the wonderful blessing that God is able to bring about when a wise person is able to represent God. This proverb teaches us such attitudes of scoffing, arrogance, discrediting the divine, not accepting godly things, but simply take everything as a joke, ridicule, scoff, and scorn. Such behaviors can only lead to tragedy and catastrophe. As spiritually, instead of being peacemakers, they spread misery and strife. And this, perhaps, is what we can see displayed during the time of the judges, when people were not ready to follow God's instructions, followed their own ways, and when they were in trouble, they would call upon God. And God sent people from time to time. But a wise person is one who will refuse to let an evil mob, an unruly group, to let them rule or take decisions, or a person who would join a riot when things are in trouble. He would, by his presence, make it worse, sneering at the law and order and causing more trouble. But God's people are called upon to provide a calming presence of God. With God, there is peace, there is tranquility, where justice can be done. For a wise person knows his role and responsibility in a society and community. By his holy living, people would call him to pray, even for kings in high positions, so that their presence in their midst can bring peace and quiet life, such godly and dignified lives that they live. This is God's intention for his people, that God wants us to be those who will bring peace and quiet, and by their life bring a betterment to the conditions that they are living in, trusting God that he can do all things to change them. These two lifestyles that the wise man is providing to us this lifestyle that we as God's people need to desire, and that is to be wise and to desist the life of a scorner, never to be scornful, never to speak ridiculously, never to act in foolishness, but rather we are called upon to be wise men. Wise men who seek God's divine wisdom, who live according to God's wisdom, and who guides their life by the wisdom of God, so that their lives can be such a witness that through their goodness and ministry, even a wrath that is to come upon a city may be turned away. God wants us to be such people who will bring about good rather than to cause more trouble. For in the world, we have more trouble, but only a wise person, a righteous person, is able to ward off God's wrath. As we live in our societies, in our families, we should seek to be those who will not be the cause of trouble, but those who will avert trouble. May God bless each one of us as we continue to live in this wonderful way that God has planned and intended for us, that our lives can be a wonderful reflection of God and His character and nature and His wisdom, which can make us worthy for His kingdom and to be an example to people in our societies. May God bless each one and have a blessed day.